G'day everyone, it's SDS SuperCoach providing SuperCoach content for you. I'm here to present a top eight forward prediction video as we continue the series of predicting players from each line with content creators. And joining me for the first time on the channel is Rookie Coach. How are we going, Rookie?
Going well, thank you, mate. Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you on the channel, mate. Yeah, it's good to have you on. So before we get started, where can we find you on the social world?
So on Twitter and X and YouTube, it is just Rookie Coach AFL on both. So very easy.
Now, we believe he's on roughly about 270 subscribers at this stage. Let's get him to 300 before round one begins, I reckon.
Woo.
So let's make sure we do that. If you're watching this channel, make sure you subscribe to Rookie Coach as he's newly part of the Supercoach community and provides refreshing, high quality content. So make sure you jump on board with that. And then you can find me on Twitter at Stephen D.W. Smith and also on TikTok, SDS underscore Supercoach, as we are now in Supercoach week. Few days to build our sides, and we thought we would give you a top eight forward prediction video. So how we're going to structure this is we've put in order our top eight, but we've also got two honourable mentions. Let's get the honourable mentions rolling. So who have you got? Who are your two honourable mentions, Rookie?
So as a Catters fan, I have to throw this man in, and that is Brian Myers. I think from the preseason, I think we've seen a fair bit of involvement, and he's just a gun player. So I think he's averaged out, just into the 80s. I think he can well exceed high 80s or even I put him at a bit of a 90 average roundabouts for this season. So I think given the experience he's now got in the team, I think they're going to look for him. We both know he's got that really nice little jab kick that just finds all these weird targets. So I think, yeah, he's an honorable mention for me. I think he's going to sit around the 90s for this season.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I actually didn't even think about that, but he plays his role tremendously. He's really up there with the Dylan Moore types of the world in that high half forward
Mm.
role, and he's a tremendous player to watch, Lionel Messi. And who is your other honourable mention?
Sam Darcy. I think we
Oh,
saw last season how influential he can be. I mean, he's that really tall forward that everyone's just going to look for. He can go up against the tall intercepts. He is just looking very damaging in that forward line. He was playing very. I don't know how to explain it in preseason, but he just looks like a different kid this season. I think, given that he's probably going to chop out some ruck time as well, especially when he goes in there 450, I think I can see, Darcy jumping between the, what was it, 85 to 90, probably still within that mark.
yep. No, I say that. I'll get to Darcy a bit later. He's also involved in my list. My two honourable mentions here are Shy Bolton for the Dockers here, who is now who is now at the Dockers, but I think with an average of 77 last year, I think he can push that back up. I think they'll obviously playing in a better side this season, and think they'll look to put him into some CBAs a bit more, just as a different type of midfielder that they've been missing a bit. So I could see them
Mm.
trying to use him in a Isaac Franken type of role, just a real X factor type. But obviously, I've put him down at 88 on the dot, just because of we know the inconsistency when it comes to his scoring in the past. So I do think he'll do much better than 77, but there'll be some floor games along with some ceiling games for him. Now I've gone Luke Jackson here at as an honourable mention. I do from what it sounds like, I think they're going to use him more as a forward than a ruck this season because it sounds like they're going to play Reedy for that role, where last year they would just play Jackson and all that. So I think they're going to use him more as a forward, but he's a very unique type of forward where he can still get up the ground. He can still be involved in ruck contests in the forward line. He's just that unicorn type of player where that results in getting more super coach points than your average key forward. So I'm happy
Definitely.
to have him in at 88.2 average for him. So a bit of a dip from last year, but that for me personally is probably due to them using him more of a full as a forward this season than last. So those are our two honourable mentions as we head into the top eight. What are we looking at number eight, rookie?
I've got Liam Baker.
Nice.
I think that given the switch now to the Weagles, we've seen the confirmation about the role that he's going to have, and we just know it's a bit of a fruitful role in regards to Supercoach. He's obviously played some inconsistencies and was jumping around a fair bit with the Tigers. I think this season we kind of see him go. I haven't given pinpoints. I'm so bad at doing the pinpoint maths and trying to find the average, but I still put Baker on the best side of 95
Okay, yeah,
this
nice.
season.
So,
I actually think he's probably more in contention to be better than some of our other picks than we expect if we can see that role because he's averaged at 82 at the moment. So I expect a minimum of 90. So very much in that Graham Myers territory, but I don't know. The Wiggles, they might see the ball in their back line a fair bit, which I think if we look at that, with how we're looking at short, I think we're just going to see a bit of the ball go to Baker.
I think this is actually a good shout, and that's actually a point I didn't think about. I heard him on the rush hour on driving home from work one evening, and he was just talking about how I guess sort of how frustrated he was a bit at Richmond with the multiple role changes with him because I mean obviously he's got flexibility in his game, but
Mm,
does seem like he's going to be firmly at halfback, orchestrating a few of their plays. So I think I think Baker's actually a really good shout. Seems like they're going to keep him in the one position, which will make him happy as well.
definitely.
So at eight for me, averaging as my phone turns off with the list, 91.3 for Sam Darcy. So I just don't know how opposition's going to stop him. I
Yeah.
That's really the key. He's just that new age type of forward where there's no he's just unstoppable. And I think I was speaking to my mates about this. I think there's if there was ever a player just kick 100 goals in the season again, it would be a bloke like Sam Darcy, where he's just unstoppable. And
Mm,
considering how he's going at this stage, I think he's probably, along with Jackson, those two as the main key forwards we look at if we want to finalize our sides if they get a good run. So, yeah, and plus I think he'll pinch hit in the ruck every now and then as well to build up points. So,
yeah.
yeah, he's so scary. So I think he's in for another breakout season. I've got him for the Coleman. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. There's usually a key forward or two that pops in. So
Mm,
we've both gone with Darcy to be around that range, mate.
definitely.
Who are we looking at seven?
Controversial, some might think. I'm actually going Bailey Smith.
Oi, okay,
I I don't believe if he averages 100, I'd be happy. I'm not expecting more than 100. I'm expecting probably around like a maybe a 98 for Bailey Smith. And the only
okay.
consideration with him is one, I haven't had him in my team, so there's a little bit of confirmation bias on my end why I don't want him. But I think Geelong have a very high management priority with their team. They love making sure their players are healthy. Given he's coming off injury, he's already had a bit of a niggle on the opposite knee. There might be some management, but we're also not 100% sure what the role entirely looks like. We didn't get to watch him in opening round. We've only seen a handful of preseason or practice matches where he did just run between wing and mids and half forward. We were not entirely sure what that looks like. So I think there's just a bit of hype because it's Basilinka. And I don't see him again. Geelong predominantly aren't a very like high disposal team for like individual players. They're very much a share the ball and move the ball effectively. So I think that also comes into consideration as well. So yeah, despite all the hype, I'm putting him for probably about a 98 average.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I can say those reservations and I have them as well. I'll get to Smith's a little bit later for me, so I'll get to him with that. My number seven is Riley Sanders. Now maybe maybe because I have a bit of a crush on him, but I mean I do I do really like the way Riley Sanders goes about it, and I think with some of these injuries with the Dogs and their aging midfield, I think there's going to be drop-offs in some of these
Mm,
Treloar, Liberatore likes, and I think the unleash of Sanders will 85% be there. I think, Bevo, there's still a bit to trust the Dogs
The
player
Bevo factor.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah. So, but I think 94 is doable for Sanders. I think there will be periods where because his game suits Supercoach where he'll just there'll be games where he goes 130, there'll be other games where he gets bevoed and scores 70. I think he's that type of player. So I don't know. It's a bit of a bolter, but I'm happy to chuck him in. He's my side. So
Definitely a good
uh,
shout.
yeah, team reveal out some point this week. Who have we got at six?
I actually have Jackson in at 6.
Yeah, Dogger.
So I actually put Dogger up to average between 100 and 105 this season.
Okay.
Now, yes, there might be concerns that it is very confident that Freo are running with the two ruck system. However, I think looking at Jackson, he just looks absolutely fit. He looks like he can run around the ground at will. I think he's also got something to prove this season with all the talks around, going back home to Melbourne or a Victorian club and Freo clearly setting a high demand for any of their players. I think there's a bit to prove for Jackson, and I think this isn't going to be the first time we see Darcy fall out for injury. As much as we want to hope that he becomes like a decent ruck to look for in Supercoach, he's just too much of an injury-prone ruckman. And you got Reedy, who is Reedy, but I think Jackson has. I think is a little bit slept on. I also am not starting him. It's more I want to see the proof in the pudding first, but if he goes where I'm thinking, then yeah, I've definitely put him over that 100 average. Not by too much. Probably maybe like a 103 at max, but I still think that there's plenty there. And I think he's just going to prove a little bit different this season because he can go either way. As I said, you think he's going to regress a little bit, which is definitely, something that most would see. Kind of see it the other way. Maybe a little bit hopeful because I did have Dogger last season and he saved me a few times. Maybe I'm giving him a bit of the benefit of doubt, but yeah, I think it's a pretty solid option in our forward line this season.
Fair enough, and I'm glad we sort of went different ways on the Jackson pick, where we can sort of rebut about it, and you brought up some great points there. So yeah, I hope I love watching Dogger play. It'll be interesting to see if he goes back to Melbourne or whatnot, but um, yeah, maybe get that
Gorn's
contract.
getting old.
Yeah,
Gorn's
Gorn's
getting
getting
old.
old. Get that contract sorted, mate. Um, at number six for me, I've got one of my boys, Dylan Moore. Um, I've put him down for 95.2, so it's at a 2.5% point drop. So I guess it's very hard for him to raise it further just due to that role. And I think that's just sort of his ceiling as a player, where there'll be periods where he averages 80, there'll be periods where he averages 115, and it just, at the end of the day, it always leans back to roughly this 95 to 99 average. So I've got him dropping a little bit just because I think there'll be times where I think Connor McDonald will have great games, which might mean Moore doesn't get onto the Supercoach pie as much, and Ginnivan's pushing up, Watson's pushing up. There's just more of these small forwards pushing up the ground. So I I think we're going to expect a very similar Dylan Moore. Just got him dropping a couple of points, but when he has a great run and or if he gets extremely cheap, we usually our super coaches can pick him up and he can deliver some really floor and ceiling inconsistent scoring, but at the end of the day, it always reverts around to that mid to high 90s for his average just in that type of role. So I've chucked in
Mm.
there as we move on to the top five. This is where it gets really serious. Where are we putting who's at fifth?
So I actually have Dylan Moore here.
Yeah, nice.
So again, I give him a bit of a slighter bump. So I think he's very much in the same ballpark as Jackson of at a minimum. I think he clocks over to like maybe 101 at end of season. I do expect to see higher spike scores,
Yeah.
only because my perception of this is Hawthorn look a lot stronger this season, which means they're probably going to win a lot more games, which I think ultimately just means more opportunities for people like Dylan. Yeah, fingers crossed. More opportunities for Dylan Moore to find the ball and kick those goals and have some influence in the game. So I think it's not so my adjustment for essentially the fifth and sixth place isn't necessarily on Moore's individual performance. I'm very much in agreement with you that he himself is probably, yeah, still going to sit between that 90, around that 95 average mark. But I think given if the Hawks are what we hope them to be this season, I think we can just kind of see a bump up to Moore's involvement just because we're hoping to see that ball in the forward line a little bit more.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Hopefully the ball will be in the forward line a fair bit more. That's all so yeah, I'm hoping yours is more correct than what mine is. But
Let's
yeah,
hope so.
but yeah, he's usually a guy we can bank on if we're really struggling for a forward upgrade, which I don't think.
Mm,
I think the forward line is 10 times better this year than it was last year. Partly thank you to Luke Beveridge for
yep.
shipping off a couple of these older dogs. So as we move into that, fifth for me is actually Bailey Smith. So I've put him down for
Ooh.
96.3. Yeah, I think most of what you said was what I was going to say about just the management early in the season. I think he will start fairly slow and build his way into the season. So, like, I think start of the season, there's even a case to be made where it could be averaging 85 due to low tog,
Mm,
getting him not as much in the CBAs to start with because they're just managing his way and they want to build him up because of how important of a player he could be for them. So, but I think he could finish quite strong. So, yeah, there could be a case where he goes 85 first half of the season, 105 second half of the season. He could be that type of pick this year. So, yeah, I've landed him at 96. I think he can go better. I think he could also go worse. So, yeah, I'm not as enamored by the pick as I was in January or December, where I just thought, gee, he could just go 110. But with the way
mm,
this preseason is panning out, it's probably looking more like the ceiling's not as high as what we thought. So, but he'll be a
yeah,
very
yeah,
important player for the Cats. I think he'll make some,
definitely.
as you're a Cats man, he'll make some big plays for you. So,
For
yeah,
sure, for sure.
hoping.
And that's, I mean, it's not attack on Smith. I think he's going to fit into the Cat side very, very well, and make and break some games for him for sure.
Yeah, he's the type of player Geelong been missing, and they'll manage him to start the year because they know how important he is for when it gets to the pointy end of the season. So, who have
Mm.
you chucked in at four?
I actually have Rankin in at 4.
Okay, Isaac Rankin. Fair enough.
Isaac Rankin. So we're hoping that the CBAs come along to the point where we can see him. Definitely. I still think again the top 4. I think are going to be the same. It's just where they kind of end. I put Rankin probably in the 105 park, just because I don't believe he's going to be as consistent as we hope. We look at Adelaide; they've got a lot of rotating magnets in that midfield. Draper's definitely going to be like sub to start, but they could give him a little bit more time on ground as he develops throughout the season. There's a few different things that just make me not so sure he's going to be that consistent 60% CBAs or however much, because we saw what he can do with, 35% CBAs towards the end of last season, which was great. But I think we're going to have some really good spike scores for him, which are going to have a massive hurt factor for those that don't have him. He's still on my team, don't get me wrong. But I think I'm a little bit more reserved on the overall expectation. I don't think he's going to be as consistent as the top 3, but he's still very much a shoe-in for a fourth, top 4.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because I think he's that type of player that can have a 6 game period of averaging 115, but then could also have a 5 game period of averaging 80 and just not having quite the role. I think the role will change week to week with Rankin of depending on which type of matchup could cause this amount of CBAs. And yeah, I do very much like the Rankin pick, and I do think he does better than this 97 average. But yeah, there will be those inconsistencies, and then you've got to factor in injury games can affect the average, so that probably drops him a couple of points. So yeah, if he's fully firing, it's probably 108 to 110 or even more. Yeah, so I like ranking there. And then four for me, I've got Helmet, Caleb Daniel, at 100.7. So I'm finding he's obviously a must-have, but I'm finding it very hard to read what's actually going to result with Helmet. We've seen in the past
Yep.
of like these North Melbourne defenders doing extremely well, having that seagull type of role, but I
Mm,
just don't know how it's actually going to pay off with Caleb Daniel. He's more your short kick type, so I don't think he's going to be nailing these 50-meter bombs like some of the previous North Melbourne halfbacks in the past, but I think he's
yep.
obviously a sensational option in Supercoach. 100.7, I think. Yeah, is roughly fair. I think there'll be stints where McKercher goes back into defence and that could halt him a little bit. But
Mm,
yeah, that role's just absolute gold. So maybe I could have put him a bit higher in terms of average, but yeah, I think I've gone pretty safe because I just don't know how it's exactly going to look. So
mm.
yeah, so I've put Helmet at 4.
Very nice.
What about your number 3?
I just have the man we just spoke about. I have the helmet. So
Yeah.
very much agree with all the points. Is that short gun of a player that's going to be in that back line causing a little bit of havoc and problems. And I think yes, while we can't expect those massive bombs, out of the 50, out towards the 50 and making up that good space, I still kind of put him at the number I fell on was a 108 average.
Okay.
So I'm feeling like a 108 to 110. I just think that North still look pretty good, but I still believe that they're still going to have a fair bit of ball back there. And I think the height of Helmet actually works to his favor to get around those contests and pick up the scraps and get really included in there when the balls hit the ground and just that groundwork. So I think that will play to his favor. Might give him a little bit more, a few contested possessions, if he's getting around it. So I think that little bit of a bump might just see him get to the 110.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Like, yeah, I mean, I hope it's 110 because yeah,
I
two.
mean, we're all hoping. We've all got him.
What's his ownership now? It's 74%. So what is he the yeah, he is the highest owned player in the game. That's unreal. Which fair enough.
Yep.
I mean, uh what do you average? 49.9. Like he's 100% probably doubling this. You
Yep.
you would suspect. So
Yep.
yeah, he's easy to chuck in there. And then my what are we up to? Number 3. Yep, I've got
Number three.
Jack McRae from the Saints. So I've chucked him in at 102 average. Um,
102.
yeah,
Ooh.
I know just because is I think he'll be good. Is he Jack McRae?
Is it the Jack McRae that we've seen that we're
Yeah,
getting back? We're getting that exact version.
is it the Jack McRae that we've seen in the past? Because I saw last year, and as good of a pickup it is for the Saints, I think he'll be tremendous for them. There is a mild concern that I don't know, could he be washed? Could he?
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know. I just he didn't look that good last year. I know the role was a bit dodgy, but
Mm,
I'm obviously going to pick him, and he's obviously got one of the best roles in the forward line for
for
Supercoach this
sure.
year. But yeah, maybe I'm underselling it, but I think he's pretty durable as well. So yeah, I might have gone unders with Rankin with a 102, but um, yeah, I think he provides a different dynamic for the Saints. They don't really have a left footer other than McRae now, so even the little things of um, opposition mids forgetting to turn this way instead of that way because
Mm,
you're a left footer. So yeah, I think he'll get a lot of clearances, especially potentially with Rowan Marshall not being in the ruck as much. It could be more Harry Boyd this season,
mm,
where Marshall is probably the best ruck in the comp at just grabbing it and kicking it and getting the clearances. But so
yep,
I think McRae will get some of those clearances that are missing with Marshall if he's not playing the ruck as much. But yeah, McRae's a fantastic pick, and hopefully he can
for
do
sure.
a lot better than what I suggested. I might have gone a bit low on these averages, probably because of
Hey, I think
yeah,
you've got better expectations. You got more room to be excited when they exceed them.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to go too crazy on them. Who's your number 2?
I have the horny man himself,
Hornet.
the Hornet. So this is a tough one because I think McRae. So McRae and Horny are probably putting their hands up, in my opinion, for the 1 and 2 spot. just in a consistent factor. They're not going to have their amazing spike scores or anything like that, like a Rankin might. But I think at the end of the season, I think they're just going to be a bit more consistent. So the Horny Man, I put at a solid 110
Oh,
flat.
nice.
I just think with the role, he's going to have a bit of a spike score potentially with Butters being out. Consideration being maybe he does get tagged instead of Rosie because we just know how much of an influence the Horny Man is. He's just an absolute rocket. He's just a rocket. He's a man on a mission. He's actually built. He's a big body forward that has the athletic performance behind it. So I think Hoyman's probably going to get up to the 110. Hopefully we see some more CBAs. If there's anything what we've seen from preseason, I think it's just going to get better over time. As you know, I think we've seen a lot of cramping, a lot of fitness issues at the moment with just the preseason games, especially in this past round zero. But I think as the season goes on, he's only just going to get more fit, and that tank's going to build up. I'm pretty hopeful. So I put him at a 110. He might have his spike scores. I'm not banking on it, but I think a 110 is probably an easy spot for Horn Francis to reach. So he's got number 2 for me this season.
Okay, okay, we love to hear it. And then my number 2 is Rankin that you put it for. So I've got him at a
Yep.
104.2.
Yep.
Yeah, I think very similar stuff to what we talked about with the Rankin pick. There's plenty of spike scores. There's plenty of down periods for him throughout the season, but I think he's primed and ready to go for. And from what it sounds like, he's had a full preseason. So
Mm.
that I think that's what we need sometimes with some of these injury prone players. We need a full preseason because there's obviously more of a chance of them surviving throughout the season. So I've chucked him
Mm.
in at a 104. I think he is a fantastic option in your starting team. I think he's
Definitely.
better than whatever he's priced at. I think it's 521k. I think his average was 97 last year. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm fairly hot on Rankin as a pick. 521k. You know he's going to be top 6. So
Mm.
yeah, I think he's a tremendous pick and he provides that real spark. And I think Adelaide will be a lot better this season. So I think there'll be more games where he makes the deciding factor of some of these games, getting these late game goals being chucked into the midfield late. So yeah, I'm fairly keen on Rankin. And then who is number 1 for you, mate?
The Jack McRae.
The Jack
the
McRae.
the Jack McRae. So I actually think McRae is. I don't think he's going to be completely back to the McRae we know and love. I think he's going to try though.
Yeah.
New club, new role. Has obviously felt he's been pushed to, a bit of the washed situation at Bulldogs. He got bevoed. He's Supercoach royalty. We all know that, and to see the last season happen with him, I think there's something to prove. I think he wants to prove that he's not washed, and he is the man that can influence and change games. So, and let's not, mind you, absolute value at 392. How can
Yeah.
you not have him in your team?
Yeah.
But I actually put him at a 112, so just
Okay,
slightly
nice.
above the horny man. But I put him at a 112. I think he'll have spike scores of like 130 plus, and I think his floor is going to be quite good though. I
Yeah, I
don't
agree.
really see him going below maybe like a 90, maybe lowest.
Okay.
I can't see him going lower than a 90.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Just because
think
that role just looks juicy.
yeah,
Unless
that's
there's an
true.
injury or whatever, which is given how in and under he is as a player, the freak injuries that are just contact injuries, they're always an option. But yeah, I'm pretty hyped on McRae this season. I do have a bit of bias.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think he'll be the most consistent out of the forward options. Like I don't think I we probably see one score under 80 and then there'll be probably 17 of his 23 games will be in between 80 and 120.
Mm.
So I think that's where we sit with that. I think the role's so good. So I've pro you yeah, you've convinced me. I've undersold him. We could probably look at more of a
Hey,
I'll
as I
chuck.
said, you're just going to be more excited. You're going to have less disappointment this season just because your expectations are a little bit lower than everyone else.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll chuck him up to a 105 rank and 106. We'll do that. So, number one for me is the horny one, Jason Horn-Francis. So, I
Love
think
it.
he's going to find it hard to lose that nickname, the horny one. So,
Yeah.
good old BT. But yeah, I've chucked Horn-Francis in at a 107.6. I think I think the full preseason is going to mean a world of good for Horn Francis. I think it's the first time at Port that he's had a full preseason. He's obviously had a few setbacks with hamstring surgery and all that. I'm pretty sure that was the first season he arrived. He's
Mm,
just so good to watch. He's so good
he
to
is.
watch. Him and Rosie will be a dynamic duo to start the season, and then when Butters comes in, yeah, that midfield's just absolutely insane for the next 6, 7 years. So yeah, I think Port Adelaide to settle there. 107, I've put Horn Francis. I think there'll
Love it.
be I think the talk as well, making him full-time mid rather than putting him in the forward line a little bit more. So yeah, I think a 107 is fair on Horn Francis, and I think he is in for an absolutely huge season. Real Nathan Buckley vibes with Horn Francis. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. As soon as you said it, I was like, yeah. I haven't actually made the consideration at all, but as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, no, that actually makes perfect sense.
And I'm a massive advocate the nowadays with the longer socks. We don't see it as much anymore. We don't see it as much, and I'm
We
glad Horn
don't.
Francis is bringing it back into trend. He's one of the few now with the long socks, and it just makes you look like more of a footballer, I reckon.
Yeah, long socks is an instant +5 Supercoach points.
Yeah, yeah, long socks, and then if you add the long sleeves, that just gives you insane aura.
It's aura points. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, his aura points are through the roof.
Uh,
If I see him in long sleeves and long socks, oh my God. I'll I'll I'll, I'll I'll just watch him all day. I won't watch a second of anyone else in that game. So I'm waffling now, but yeah, that is our top eight forwards with a couple of honorable mentions, I believe. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We've discussed 12 different players. I believe Sanders and Shy Bolton made the top 10 for me, and then Fields, Myers, and Lamb Baker. So I think we had a good discussion there, rookie. Thank you so
I
much
think
for
we did.
jumping on the channel, mate.
Thank you for having me, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course, as we move ever so close to AFL SuperCoach 2025, it is getting really real now. I think it's really
Mm.
real, and I had a dream last couple of nights ago of not pressing save on my team.
Oh no, the dreams are happening.
Yeah, nah. So I'm just spamming the save button for me. But thank you so much for jumping on, mate. I'm sure we'll team up again in the near future as we
Of
head very
course.
close to the start of Supercoach. So thank you very much, mate.
No worries at all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. And my league code will be out very shortly. Cheers.